Hello YouTube, I'm Andrew Does Hair. You can find my work on Instagram at Andrew Does Hair. I want to start this video off by talking about my Thursday nights, my every Thursday nights from 2015 to about 2019. See, what I started doing is after a long day in the salon and taking regular clients, I would stay late and I would play with hair. I would invite a friend or a client or even a hired model who I paid to let me cut their hair, and I would literally just have fun with hair. I did this because, well, it was fun. In the process, though, I happened to get better at hair, which was great, and I learned photography. And this greatly benefited my career. By having better photos of hair, my Instagram account grew, and it absolutely changed my career. In fact, to this day, there are certain phrases, certain haircut names, certain styles. If you were to search them on the internet, you would happen to see my photos. So maybe I'm not a professional photographer, maybe I'm not making a living with a camera, but there's a good chance if you search for certain haircuts, you might have seen my work. So the reason I point all this out is in this video, I want to kind of do what I would do on a Thursday night, do the things that I was doing to create this content that helped my career to grow. And, I really highly recommend if you do hair, take some time to do this. Even if you're just shooting with an iPhone, just take some time to play with hair and have fun with hair just to take better photos or any photos. To make this interesting, I'm going to shoot with two different cameras today. I actually did a comparison video with these cameras in the past if you want to look at all the technical details. And in that particular video, I didn't actually talk about the image quality, but in this video, it's pretty much going to be the image quality is what you're going to see. I'm not really going to talk about the cameras much at all. So what we have here is a Canon 6D. This came out in 2012. I bought mine for $350 here. The lens on the 6D is a EF 100mm f2. I bought that for $199. So this is, a $550 camera. Now the big boy, the giant camera next to it is a Canon R6, which was $2,500 when I bought it 2 years ago. The lens on it is a Sigma 105mm f1.4 art, which I bought 3 or 4 years ago for $1,600. I'm going to put the images from these cameras up on the screen, and I'm not going to tell you which is which until the end of the video. So what I'm going to do here, now that Ryan's hair has been cut off camera, is I'm going to play with it. I'm just going to have fun styling it. And so typically when I do these sort of just fun styling sessions, I like to start off with a little bit of product in the hair because it is freshly shampooed, and I don't want it to be too fluffy and too light and too, frizzy. And so by putting a little bit of product in beforehand, and this is 80H dry, it just kind of helps the hair to feel a little bit dirty to begin with. So the first thing I want to do is just rough dry the hair and see what it does. Now, it's important to note that, when you have a good looking model and good lighting and a good haircut, most importantly, you don't have to do too much to get a great style for like a photo shoot. I mean, at this point, if I stopped and I shot this, I could probably, get some likes on the image. And, people would come in and ask for it. I want my hair styled like this. I'm like, it's not even done yet. But the point is, I want to stress that as you're doing this, don't think every style has to be put perfectly in a place to look good. If you look along the way here, we're going to stop a lot in the middle of styles and just you can kind of see like it looks good kind of no matter where it moves. So some areas better and some areas worse. But what I'm doing here is using high heat and high power and just wiggling the hair around. And then once the hair is dry, I'm switching from high heat and high power to high heat and low power. And I'm going to start smoothing out the hair where I feel like I want it smoother. Now in the front, I want to leave a lot of that natural wave. So I just continued blow drying it with no brush. But in the back where I want it to lay a little bit smoother, and on these sides here where I want to just kind of refine the way the hair is laying, I'm going to use a brush to add tension to get everything to lay a little bit more uniformly. So this is roughly kind of an easy, quick style that, it's not absolutely like some immaculate, perfect look, but it is very much in style right now. A lot of the TikTok kids and stuff doing this kind of middle part 90s thing, very Boy Meets World. And so we're just going to go with that. And because it's kind of a casual look, I wanted to shoot it in kind of a casual environment. We just picked this chair right here as though maybe he's sitting and waiting while his wife gets her hair done and he's in deep thought, right? So I use these Yongnuo YN360 lights here. The lights all around my salon are about 3200 Kelvin. So I set these lights to 3200 Kelvin to match them. I put a direct light behind him to be kind of a hard rim light. That one's cranked all the way up. And then in front of him, I used some paper diffusion to soften up the key light. And I have that one turned down, maybe like half power. It's a little on the dim side. So once I get him into position and I like the pose, I shot this actually in JPEG. This first shot is the only one that I shot in JPEG. And here, I'm not going to say much, but, you can compare the images. I'm going to zoom in here in a second. I'm going to try not to talk on these image comparisons. We'll see if I can pull it off. So So now that we got our first look done, I'm gonna go in a different direction. Now, with each of these styles, I didn't know exactly where I was going when I started the style. I just had a direction. And I know that, since his hair is kind of cut to lay flat, like we want it to sit flat on his head. I wanted to see what happens if we go the other direction. I just wanted to see what his hair looks like if it's big. So his hair is not exactly cut to sit into a nice pompadour, but you can fake it for a photo shoot. It happens all the time. And so what I want to do here to begin with is I want to pull all of his hair up with a brush. I'm using this is a Vest Ceramic Pro 2000. It's a 9-row brush, kind of like a Denman. And I'm just pulling his hair upward. I'm heating the root and then cooling the root to try to get some like lift at the root there. Now on these sides where the hair is a little bit shorter and a little bit harder to smooth out with that other brush, I switched to a nylon bore blend brush. And so this is kind of similar to like a Mason Pearson brush. I'm using that to just, again, try to get the hair to lift upward and try to smooth out some of that wave. I'm not trying to like completely straighten it because that wave is going to give us some body that's going to help the hair to have a lot of movement so it doesn't look so pristine when it is put up. Like I want this big, but I don't want it like perfectly tidy. I want it to look like a casual, messy, aloof, happy accident. So now that I've got some volume put in at the roots there, I'm going to go in with a tiny bit more product. And mostly I want to work this through the roots of the hair and then a little bit through the ends. So what I expect from this product is for it to just make the hair sticky. Like it's not going to get hard. It's not going to firm up. It's not going to get crunchy. It's going to be workable. And I'm just going to work with it. Now I froze this frame here to point out that could have been a done style. That's photo shoot ready. But I just kept working with it. I decided to maybe tease it. And that almost could be a done style. I kind of like that waterfall elephant trunk thing. Maybe I could have gone with that, but I didn't. So here I'm doing a little bit of back combing. I don't do that often, but that's kind of the point of these exercises is to do things that I don't do on regular clients so I could just get better at understanding how to move hair around, how to make hair do things. And this is why I strongly recommend that every barber and hairstylist take these sessions to do this whenever they can. So the reason I was doing a little bit of back combing there is I didn't want to see gaps in the hair. If you look right there, you can kind of see straight through his hair in the front. This is not because he's thinning or fine or anything. It's just like the way the hair is cut, it's not meant to stand up like this. It's not layered in a way that is conducive to this. Some of those hairs on the corner are too short to go up and over. And so he pretty much has a skinny little mohawk of hair in the middle that you can see straight through here. So by back combing it, I kind of mitigated that a tiny little bit. But ultimately, I think what I'm just going to do is have to angle him in a way where maybe it doesn't matter that you can see straight through his hair. The silhouette is good and the texture looks cool, so I'm going to go with it. So here in this setting, I always see this Z painted on the wall in the salon. I don't know exactly why we have a Z. I don't know what it stands for or where it came from or why we have it. But at 100 millimeters roughly, this makes a great backdrop. The compression of the lenses here just fill the frame with that little Z there. Big takeaway if you're kind of new to photography, if you're a barber hairstylist or even just a photographer who's kind of new, using a telephoto lens like this, you can just take anything that doesn't look like it's big enough to be a backdrop and just stretch it out to fill the frame. I personally love shooting around the 100 to 135 millimeter range for this reason, because things you would never look at and think, oh, that's a backdrop, can actually be a pretty good backdrop. So same thing here at 3200 Kelvin lights. You can see on the far left side of the frame here, the 5500 Kelvin looks blue in this shot against the blue wall. And what I'm doing here is I wanted to put that key light really close to his head to give us some detail on the inside of the haircut so you can see the comb marks and that sort of thing. This is shot in RAW, and that's the unedited version, and here both shots are edited. And then I have that rim light on the opposite end that, again, is cranked a little higher, and it's just kind of, I wanted to move the key light close because I wanted his face to fall into darkness. And then I wanted to kind of rim light his face and make it look really contrasty and bold to show off the gnarly silhouette of this haircut. I mean, this is like larger than life. He was kind of laughing at himself in the mirror during this process because he's never had his hair look like this before. But that's, again, the purpose of this exercise is I just want to do things that I've rarely get to do so I can get better at hair and so I can get some cool content to put on my Instagram. I mean, a photo like that would actually get quite a bit of likes just because it's, good looking model, larger than life hair. And both of these cameras seem to be doing a phenomenal job. Okay, so getting him back in the chair to continue styling him. At this point, I did consider shampooing his hair and starting over from scratch, but instead, I think I'm just going to wet it down and let the product we've already put in there sort of help me to sculpt the next style. I want to go in the far opposite direction for this look. Instead of doing a very large, outlandish, crazy, messy hairstyle, I'm going to go very sleek and tidy and dapper. Now, oftentimes for photo shoots, you want to actually work with wet hair. There's no need to set this under a dryer or something before I shoot it, because if he's moving around and the hair moves, I'm going to want to recomb it and restyle it multiple times. In fact, right now, as I'm kind of putting this hair into place, I don't know exactly where I'm putting it. I'm going to comb it back, and then I want to push it forward to see where it splits naturally. And maybe I want to build a style off of that. You know, God designed this guy better than I can. So I'm just going to follow what's already there. If there's a natural part, let's see what we can build around it. And one of the things that I like about his sort of bowl haircut that he has here is when the hair is combed flat, wet to the head, you can still see strong corners there. And that to me makes these sort of wet styles a lot of fun to do. Again, I rarely get to do these on real people, on regular clients. And so I want to take the opportunity here to just give it a try. And really what I'm doing is I'm just combing his hair around and seeing what it kind of wants to do. And then for a split second, I thought maybe I could do a finger wave. And then I remembered that I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to change directions here and maybe just go for a middle part. And again, just jamming. No real goal, just combing it until I feel like it looks cool. I guess I kind of thought for a split second here about that guy from Titanic with the sort of middle part slicked back. So now that I kind of like the way the hair is laying, I'm going to put a tiny bit of product in here. I put some 80H wet at the root in the front because I know I want to pump up the front a little bit. So I want some product on the roots to do that. And then I kind of put the rest over the surface of the hair. It didn't really need it so much. The water alone is enough to kind of hold it where I want it, at least long enough for a photo. And generally speaking, like if you're going to wet style your hair, like as a way to go out into the world, I like to tell my clients, if you can't get your hair to lay where you want it with water alone, don't expect any product to hold it there all day, because you know, by the time a product's heavy enough to hold your hair in place all day, you got like helmet head. If this air dried completely and then he shook it around, it would actually look pretty cool. And throughout the process of the shoot, I do expect and I do want the hair to move. I keep the comb in my back pocket the entire time. And every time we readjust, I'll jump in and do whatever I need to do to keep it looking, you know, camera ready. So here I know that I want to go for kind of a real crisp, dark, sleek look. You know, he's got tuxedo hair, so I want to do some dark, moody lighting with, you know, maybe some real strong, harsh rim light over here. And once I get my lighting dialed in, I'm going to kind of have him look around until I feel like I have a pose I like. Typically, I don't like to shoot people straight on, but if I'm working with a middle part here, or like an unusually symmetrical haircut in any sort of fashion, I do like to have them look straight at the camera. So I'll have someone like right in the center of the frame like this if I deliberately want to show off symmetry, like, or if they happen to have a particularly symmetrical face, or if I want to deliberately show off like asymmetry, I'll have them look straight into the camera. But for the most part, it's usually from the side or like a 45-degree angle. So once I get that shot that I'm happy with, I'm going to move in here and get something a little tighter. At this point, his hair started falling, and that's always a cool look. I deliberately kind of, while editing this one, I brought up the shadows a lot to sort of show that comparison between the cameras here, the shadow recovery from the raw files. And yeah, I think they both performed for what I'm doing in real life here in a practical scenario. Like, I think both of these cameras perform wonderfully. And the reason I want to point this out and compare these cameras is like, I talk to a lot of barbers and hairstylists who are afraid to get into photography because they think they have to spend $3,000 to get good photos. But here you see for $550, you can get some pretty good photos. And by the way, these are the cameras that you were looking at. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're into this sort of thing.